So I think there's an argument to be made that maybe if you've got a really good creator on the left and a really consistent dinker also on the left, if you just give them a guy on the right who's willing to take 30% of the court and just is really tough to attack on that 30% of the court, I think that lets the left side player play at their best because they're still taking a lot of court and they're still orchestrating the action. Like, I'm not saying I'm the one on the right that's orchestrating the action. I think in the final I sped up maybe 4 or 5 times, but I was just a rock at the kitchen and I was really tough to attack. And I think that gave Tyson a lot of freedom to play how he wanted to play. So I think the future of the right is maybe the most important thing might just be consistency and countering ability. Okay, we've got Adam Stone on the podcast. He is Major League Pickleball GM. He's a legend of the pickleball game. He's already been on this podcast. I've already introduced him. He doesn't need an introduction. Thank you for coming on the podcast, Adam.
Happy to be here. And James, I'm excited because the link came to me from your email. So I'm Corinne up in the corner. So this is a good start. And any lack of caffeination that you have, James, I've made up for it with 2 double shots of espresso. So I'm ready to rock, buddy.
Wow. Okay. So we're just on a different plane of existence right now. So for those who don't know, the last time I had Adam on the podcast, we had descended from Anna's email. It was just it wasn't good. I didn't know what was going on, but I've, a couple steps back to take 10 steps forward in the Zoom world. That's what I've done.
That's right. We're moving towards, both of us are moving towards being real adults. So this is good, James. It's good.
You're closer than me. You're
in age, maybe not in actions, but in age for sure.
So let's just get into it. We've got the recap for TOC. We could probably start with men's singles. And singles isn't really, I haven't been playing it, but I am playing singles in Cincinnati in a couple weeks. So I'm looking at these guys. I'm trying to get back into the game and see what's going on. And one match that stuck out to me was one of the best matches I've seen in a long time. It was Connor Garnett versus Federico Staksrud in the semis. I would just encourage viewers to go back and watch that one because it was insane. Connor was, I think, did you call that match?
I believe that I did. Yes. Yeah, I believe I did.
Yeah.
So sometimes it runs together, James. So I'm not positive, but I think that was me out there. So that's good.
Yeah, it was it was insane. And when I watch these guys now, it's just the passing shots are absolutely absurd. It's kind of like singles isn't even really, it doesn't look like there's anything other than just guys are out there that just want it so bad. They just want to compete and they're just ripping serves. The game has changed so much. What occurred to me mostly was like a year ago when I came in and played singles, it was way easier than it is now. The men's singles game, of all things that have gotten way better, men's singles is just anything can happen. There's probably 15 guys that could get to the final or win like any tournament. You saw that with Gabe Joseph last weekend. It's so competitive. It makes me not want to come back in it. But
yeah, no, every time I'm on the call, I have to make the blanket statement that I retired at the right time. But of the 5 events, men's and women's singles, men's and women's doubles, and mixed, from when I last was relevant a year and a half or 2 years ago, the biggest leap is men's doubles, in my opinion, no question, of those 5 events. Now they've all gotten better and higher level, but men's singles is definitely number 1 for me.
Yeah, it's crazy because when I first came in, you had, I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus, but there were some
sure you are.
I mean, there were some players that were making the quarterfinals and the semifinals that really didn't, nowadays are like in the qualies. And you look at these first round matchups, you've got like, a guy like Julian versus Jaume, or like Connor Garnett versus like Christian or something. It's absolutely insane. And so I'm going to come back in, but I think my new plan for singles is just, I'm going to hit every serve as hard as I possibly can. Literally.
No, I think that's a very reasonable strategy. And just to, I know you mentioned that you're going to play in a couple weeks. What would you say is your overall game plan for moving forward in singles as you are now becoming more relevant and running deeper in the doubles draws?
Yeah, I think my game plan's probably going to be singles every other event. I think I'm definitely more of a fall and winter singles player. The summer, it's not really for me, you know. For people who don't know, actually, this next tournament in Kansas City, the singles day on Thursday is going to be 105 degrees. So I'm not playing it, needless to say. But in the winter, I'll play more. I think my strategy is going to be I'm going to pick colder venues, indoor venues. I'm just going to bang the serve, bang the return, and then hit a drive and not play backdrop. And
And
that's yeah.
hit a drive and then keep driving if you have to. If that brain flickers drop, get back into the point. We're just not going to do that, James. We're going to power through.
No, no. I'm not going to go out there and make smart decisions. I'm going to make smart decisions to preserve my body.
There
That's
you go. That's right.
the
You
body.
save all the smart decisions for doubles day. Okay, there you go.
Yeah, man, I only need them for men's day. I don't need any mixed. I'm just gonna, not a lot of strategy there either. So I'm just gonna rip everything. And I think, especially for how I move my feet and how much I'm a pretty big guy. I was getting a lot of little like ticky tack injuries when I played singles, and they just really bugged me. And it affected my mixed day, it affected my men's day, and I didn't think it was worth it. So when I do come back in, there's not going to be anybody playing shorter points than me.
And
So
I completely, utterly respect that. Been many years since I've been played singles, but I was the same way. Big flat drive. If it hits the back fence, that's all good. If it paints the back line, that's okay as well. But there's no dropping, there's no dinking and dunking, and I will be fresh for doubles the next day. That's for sure.
yeah, yeah, and that's one of the reasons I'm happy that the PPA got rid of the back draw outside of the first round, because I don't have to feel bad. If I win a match, lose,
Yeah.
wow, it is what
No,
it is.
definitely. Hey, well, I mean, I don't want to, we can, go back to singles if we need to, but I just kind of wanted to touch on first round mixed doubles play from this past tournament at Tournament of Champions. And I certainly wouldn't have poked the bear if you didn't have so much success on the men's side. But let's chat about that briefly. As Rachel Rohrabacher and Andre Daescu were able to catch you and Anna. This is pickleball, crazy things happen, and two quality players that you played, but I would have to say definitely an upset on paper.
Yeah, and it was surprising for me because like Anna and I have been super consistent. We had gotten 4 straight podiums up until that point, so we had felt like we were always getting deep, but we had never played a tough first round. And every time we play a first round, it's like, they come from that round of 64 draw, and it's round of 32, and it's two teams that we've maybe never even seen, or two players, sorry. But now we've got Andre and Rachel, and it's in TOC, tough to get to the kitchen, the ball's flying. And I think we made the mistake of maybe under practicing and undervaluing how important it is to get used to that TOC altitude, because I think neither of us were dialed in. I missed a few serves, we missed some returns, and Andre and Rachel had already played a match. So they had already played a match, they played well. Andre didn't miss a ball, and Rachel was tougher to attack than I expected. Rachel played really well, and she's got a lot of power. She's using the halo pretty soft. I saw that. I was like, okay, I'll give some off pace, backhand speed ups. I'll be fine. And she's just clocking the ball. I think I hit the third point of the match. I hit like a off pace speed up right to her forehand. She might have bagged Anna with it. I'm like, oh, okay, sorry about that, Anna. And so it's they played really well, and I was just a little bit. I played poorly. I played worse. I was the worst player on the court. I wasn't ready. And now I realize, like, okay, if our first round is difficult like that, I've got to be more disciplined about warming up, and I got to take it really seriously, because anything can happen in that type of situation.
Yeah, I think there was probably a couple factors in play, and it's what warming up a lot. If the tournament's in South Florida, probably not that big of a deal. You're used to that. It's warmer conditions. It's easier to make balls. But I think paired up with a very quality first round opponent and that altitude, which is only a couple or handful of tournaments a year, probably played a factor in it. But I mean, you talked about the first rounds in singles. I know Rachel Rohrabacher is not a name that's known well, but she was drafted high in MLP. She's got a lot of game, and of course the veteran of the game, Andre Daescu. So I think if you guys run it back, you probably have a good job to catch some revenge. But yeah, good for them and nice win for them. But you sure did make up for it in men's doubles day, didn't you, Jimmy?
I did okay in men's day. I think it was interesting because I guess we'll talk about men's doubles. Why
Let's
not? Why
go.
don't we get into the men's doubles recap? I so I this was my second tournament where I was just playing the right the whole time. Like I was pretty much, I played the left a little bit, a couple possessions in like the first two rounds, but mostly I was playing the right the whole time. And I decided after this tournament, I think that playing the right is just it's just way better. It's just so much more fun. I'm not going to say I'm a right side specialist, obviously, but I think it's just a better deal. You hit less balls, you play less court, and you get the same amount of prize money, and maybe a little less of the glory. But I mean, I'm fine with that. And it was great. I think I have a good. Well, I'll get into our run. So me and Tyson, we won gold in men's, and our second round we played DJ Young and Eric Lang, and that one was not particularly competitive. I think DJ was making a lot of errors. One thing I noticed from that match though is that Eric Lang's backhand punch with a paddle that's not that poppy. Like the head paddle is not a particularly poppy paddle. He had some backhand punches that came off like overheads. Eric did, and I think I had never really noticed that before playing him, but he just connected on some that were just absurd. So I think I don't know if you've dealt with that, but
Oh yeah, no, I've played Eric Lang. I would be shocked if it's less than 10 times. And I think it's very similar kind of to Tyson's. It's a poke, not a flip. He kind of pokes it. Some other players really roll, get
I mean,
underneath
it's
on that
counter.
backhand side. Oh, you're talking about the counter.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so you're not talking about the backhand speed up. You're talking about when Eric slides and punches the crap out of a backhand. Oh yes. No, I've actually dealt with that at TOC. Declan and myself playing Eric Lang and Steve Deacon. And I was actually playing the left at this time, and Eric Lang was playing the right. And I just kept hooking my forehand from the middle right into that backhand electric punch. And the thing about Eric Lang is when he's on the right, he slides to the right and punches the backhand. And when he's on the left, he slides to the left and slaps forehand. So uses his length really nicely. And when you can make that slide much more comfortably when you have the wingspan. So definitely dealt with that before. And Eric Lang, he's got some game.
Yeah, I was surprised. That was my takeaway from that match. It was like that backhand counter was coming off like a Dylan Frazier overhead, like same speed. And maybe a little hotter than that. And
Da-da!
that was one. And then I think so. Our next match we played Andre and Dylan, and um, that was weird because Dylan is, in my opinion, somebody who I think is tougher to play against than Andre. I think if I had to choose when I'm on the right, somebody I'd want to be in front of, I felt really comfortable with Andre in front of me. Just not a lot of, he's a great competitor. The guy won't miss a ball, right? Andre is so solid, but I think in a hands exchange with Andre, it's tough for me to lose. And I think that's just the truth. And I think Dylan they made the switch a little too late there. I think they put Dylan on the left at nearly the end of the second game. And I think Dylan is a guy who's capable of playing the left at a high level. It's not like he's just a right side guy that can just only play the right and just doesn't really do anything on the left. Like I think Dylan should have probably played the left more there. And that was my takeaway from that match. I mean, Tyson played so well. I didn't really do much. I didn't have a lot of touches there. And I think we have an interesting strategy, Tyson and I, because for the majority of the tournament, Tyson would just dink cross and he would just keep the ball in front of me for the most part. If he had one where he could take it out wide and he was in control of the rally, he would do it. But if he was in an even dinking exchange, he was just going to dink it cross, keep it in front of me, and he just wouldn't miss. And because I'm pretty tough to attack on the right, especially if I'm only covering 40% of the court, I could slide backhand. He can counter bigger with his forehand than his backhand, but not even close. He can sit forehand in that middle. And who's going to out dink Tyson backhands cross? So it didn't really matter the matchup, right? Like when we played Connor and Christian in the semis, Connor's obviously a lot better of a player than Christian is, but Connor saw all the balls. And even when we played Riley and AJ, we were mostly just keeping it in front of me the whole time. And I would just dink straight on. I just dinked middle, dinked, and we just kept it right in front of me, dared people to come through me. And that was kind of the play. It was kind of like Tyson was playing like cross court, like skinny singles. And then he just had like a 40% of the court with me, and I was just ready to punch the backhand. And it's an interesting strategy. I haven't seen that too often. Usually it's the reverse of that. Usually it's like two right side guys going cross. So I don't know if we turned over a new leaf. I don't know. What do you think about that strategy?
No, I think it obviously worked well this past weekend, but I think the main thing for me is I would say I think that Tyson's initial counterattack is fine. I think when Tyson speeds up, he's on the next ball fine, but he struggles a bit when his partner speeds up. So I think that putting him on the left probably gives you guys the best of those three situations. So he's going to be the one speeding up more than you. When you're on the left, you're going to do your little thing, speed up this and that, and it might catch Tyson in some awkward spots. So I think that having him on the left, him doing a lot of the speeding up and then being on the next ball or just initially countering an attack from the opponent is a better situation than you speeding up and then possibly that next ball going to Tyson. Is that reasonable?
For sure. Yeah. And I think if I'm on the left and he's countering backhand in the middle, if it comes to him, that's not the same as him countering forehand. Because when he loads up on that forehand, like people, he's not known for his counters, but if he can sit on the forehand, it's coming back hot. And I also think Tyson is really good at initiating. I think he's a lot better of an initiator, even in men's than people give him credit for. So he was able to attack AJ. He attacked Riley in some great spots. He was able to get Riley cross court a lot at like, kind of his stomach. And that's an interesting spot. Riley, it's like the spot on him is kind of like his belly button a little bit. And Tyson can hit a spot very well. So he would go right at the stomach. It kind of came back to me and I could finish it. I think that happened a couple times. So I think we're a way better team when Tyson's on the left, he's orchestrating the action, and then I'm just standing there, push the dink in, and send the backhand counter back. That's all.
No, no, I love it. I love it. And yeah, and that is the spot. It's hard to get it there on Riley, but if you can go belly button or below with that grip on the forehand, it's not this. He's got to come underneath it, and that's a much different situation. You kind of avoid the pancake. But you're right. Tyson was speeding up. Now, I consider a fully cross court speed up if he's on the left attacking with his backhand, but he was hitting those forehands from kind of the middle of the court and with quite a bit of success. And I'll tell you right now, has Tyson kind of optimized playing off the kitchen line? Because if you look at some of these situations, you have AJ right on the kitchen line, you have Tyson 3 or 4 feet off, but some of the quality of shots that he's hitting, not only counterattacks with power, especially on the forehand, but his block ability when he steps back, it's like he is masking maybe some issues hanging right on the line, but he does such a good job of it. You have to give him some credit.
Yeah, Tyson's ability to, I didn't like it at first because it made me feel bad about my own resets. Because I wanted to blame. I was like, my paddle's too poppy. We're using the same paddle. It's like, okay, so he's doing it with the 002. I guess I got to be able to do it with the 002. He's from like 4 feet back. He's getting to the kitchen every single time. It's, I couldn't tell you how many times during this tournament I hit one of the worst thirds you could imagine. Like a third shot drive 6 feet above the net, and somebody's got a over the shoulder ball right at Tyson's feet. He just drops it right into the kitchen. Like his transition game, his fifths, his sevenths, like that's what really I think carried us in a lot of ways. And I think in the final, I was able to get to the kitchen decently. I kind of pushed the drops in, but Tyson was, he's taking 70% of the court on thirds, but I'm still hitting most of them because people are trying to find me at any moment. So I'm hitting most of the thirds, but he's giving me that little, he kind of let me get into a rhythm. But his ability to block with one hand too, which is really impressive. I noticed that a lot, like because he's not. You can go there pretty often if he's 3 or 4 feet back because he's not going to put two on it and clock it. He's just going to reset it, but he's not going to miss it. And it's interesting because when you're going against a team like AJ and Riley both have great hands, and we would all agree that AJ and Riley do have that hand speed advantage over Tyson. But it didn't really matter because, and the other thing about that too is going against that team, your resets have to be so good against AJ because AJ is really tough to get to the kitchen on. And if you leave it high and it bounces a little against Riley's going to clock a backhand. It's really difficult, but Tyson's resets were just so precise at TOC, which is also interesting because of the altitude. It was pretty crazy to watch. And I think playing off the kitchen line is weird because you don't really consider that a strategy for men's, but he was just so comfortable 4 feet back, 3 feet back. And I don't know. Like, I guess that works, right? Like I never really thought of that.
I mean, you can kind of only knock them for so long. I mean, I've made multiple comments myself, just maybe not the crispest of hand speed from the kitchen line, but when the man does not miss, masks it, and has a whole legitimate strategy from a couple feet off the line, you kind of just roll with it and give the man some credit. Very impressed with his play, and I don't care how much grit you have on your paddle, how much pop you have on your paddle. Not missing is a very nice quality to have in your own game, and Tyson has that in spades.
For sure. I think maybe that's why Riley gets mad when his partners misses because he's so used to playing with Tyson.
Yeah, possibly so. And it's just like optically too. He only maybe makes a spectacular play or shot every so often, but like it's so interesting when you're watching when someone makes a spectacular play and then someone makes 5 great gets and great consistent shots into the kitchen. You probably give more credit to that one great play than those 5 shots that were placed perfectly into the kitchen but soft. So it's hard to really watch a match and figure out exactly who's playing well, exactly who's making the mistakes, and I think that's a cool part about the sport, honestly.
Yeah, I think so too. And the last thing I'll say that Tyson's really good at also is just he's not taking, 50% of the court on these dinks. He's taking everything off my inside foot. I hit like a couple dinks here, probably popped up both of them. He's taking so many dinks and they're so precise. Like the dinking against AJ and Riley has to be good because they're wanting to pull on almost everything. And the dinking was just it was so solid. It was really, I remember thinking that in the middle of the fifth, like, because sometimes I'll get these like intrusive thoughts when I'm at the kitchen line. And Tyson's just like, he hit like 3 or 4 perfect dinks in a row. I'm like, Tyson's dialed. Wow.
I can only imagine some of the things going through your head up at the kitchen line or really at any point in time, James. But okay, so last thing I will talk about with Tyson. I know you said last thing, but I'll take this one. Where would you say, as being a top pro player, when we have the talent so tight at the top, how important is it to build your partner up and maybe be the type of partner that gets the most out of them? Okay. It was a big responsibility for me with Deckel because I was just way less talented. Tyson seems to, he's pushing you, he's chest bumping you, it's a good vibe on court. How important is that?
That was something that I forgot to say. I got to talk about this. Um, there's no real ranking for it. There's no like duper for it or whatever. but it should be acknowledged because it matters. In doubles pickleball, it is a huge deal. And if there was a ranking for like how good of a partner you are, I think Tyson's got to be number one. And Tyson gets the most out of his partners. Like you see, in Red Rock with Brendan Long, like Brendan played his best pickleball. And I think a part of that is because if you've got Tyson on your team, you've got Stallion Performance there, Craig Faustner, his trainer. It's like an awesome, it's an experience. And really, I think, it's not, this isn't a knock on somebody like Riley because everybody's different. And it's not, or even like a Ben or something who aren't known as like super supportive partners. Maybe they're not going to whisper the sweet nothings in your ear and all that. It's a different situation, but I think there's definitely value in being somebody like a Tyson, and I think I have that quality also. I think I'm also pretty aware of the fact that you're not going to make your partner better by not acknowledging them after a point that they missed, right? Or like eye rolling them. It doesn't make you play better. It really doesn't. And I think Tyson, that's probably the most underrated part of his game because people play well when they play with somebody like a Tyson or like a Catherine, right? Or like an Anna or even me, like somebody who's just constantly supportive. And that's something that, I wasn't comfortable on the right, didn't really know what I was doing. But every time I made a dink or hit a backhand counter, Tyson's like, let's go, like it's just it's a real factor. And you can't ignore that. So
Yeah. Yeah, great point. And big I talk about this all the time. Big talent level differences a couple years ago, not so much. This is the stuff that can give you over the hump, is the intangibles at this point. So you obviously need the quality play on court and the talent and the repetition, but just a couple little extra things that some people might not give a lot of credence to can really get you where you need to be, and that's cool that there's different variety of ways to get that done.
yeah, I think so too. And so I guess yeah, we could talk about the mixed. It was a weird situation, right? Because you've got Pat Smith and Tina in the final because me and Anna laid a little bit of an egg in that first round. And it's unfortunate because but there are some good things that I want to talk about though. Like I thought Gabe Tardio and Tyra Black played really well in a cool match to watch, by the way, against Federico Stackstrud and Leah Jansen. That match is streamed. So I would encourage you to go back. There was actually some just I think Tyra's mixed game is coming along a lot faster than all of us thought it would. As we know, right? Mixed is the last thing for new girls to get, and then men's doubles is the last thing for new guys. But she's looking really solid. She's really tough to attack. And Gabe is really good. Like Gabe is really creative, really talented. I thought he should have been taken in Premier, and he's a little up and down, but that was a team. That was a team, Gabe and Tyra, that I was really impressed by. And I watched all the matches. So
Yeah, and I was able to call some of that match. I believe they were playing Pat Smith and Pisnik, and I think it was a tough break that they had to come back in the morning, and they kind of got off to a slow start. And I actually mentioned it on the broadcast. Is just when you're a little bit older, more experienced, and not just in pickleball, just life experiences, when you have 5 or 6 bad points, it's easier to get out of it. And I think Gabe and Tyra kind of got stuck in a rut and were just unable to dig out of it and kind of ran out of time. So that's a tough break. But either way, some really nice play from Pat Smith, who was actually able to bend his body. 2 years ago, he couldn't bend his body. So the fact that he's more healthy, able to move a little bit and especially bend. And then you pair that with Tina Pisnik, who very early in her career is making some good decisions out there, and she does not miss a lot either. It was great to see them have a nice run.
yeah, and it was my impression that Tina has really good hands. I didn't get to see a lot of her play. I'm not as familiar with her game, but what I have seen is that she seems to check every box. I was waiting to see something that wasn't good, and I just haven't seen it. She's really good. And Pat was also really impressive in the semis against Riley and AJ.
Mhm.
Obviously, AJ wasn't at his best in that match, but Pat's hands look really clubby. He looks like he's moving well. And obviously the concussion happened and that was unfortunate. But up until that moment, he looked let's just say this. The fact that he didn't get drafted in Challenger that's shocking. I think that's even more of a snub maybe than Callan because Pat can go out there and play some singles too.
Yeah, and like I said, the hip's a big factor. Hip's a big deal, and when that's barking at you, you're going to get yourself in some tough situations. But I think the key word in everything you said, James, was clubby. His hands are heavy, and when he hits it well, that thing gets back on you pretty dang quick. And I remember some of those counter attacks coming back at me really quick a couple years ago, and it was very nice to see them again.
Yeah, yeah, I think so too. And Jay played pretty well too. I'm excited for the Dallas Pickleball Club. That's going to be an interesting team there. So speaking of the Dallas Pickleball Club, Elise and Callie got to the finals. They took out Anna and Tyra in the semis. The women's final, I actually watched it. I usually don't watch the women's finals, but I watched this one, guys. So I saw what happened. And the main thing that came to my mind, and I just have these random takeaways, but this random takeaway is Catherine's resetting and thirds. Like if I could get to the kitchen like Catherine, I might be like the best. Like it was insane. Catherine's resetting. It's just I get more impressed with good thirds and resets than anything. Like I was in the crowd actually. A couple people were laughing at me because it was the fourth game and they had just had some crazy hands battle, but like Catherine had some like off the shoelace backhand reset, goes an inch over the net, and that's what got them in. And I was just talking about that the whole time. It's just the stuff that she does in transition is, I mean, it's same with Tyson. I don't know who's better in transition between her and Tyson, but it's pretty special. It's pretty shocking.
Yeah,
So
I would say they're very similar. Tyson occasionally he occasionally looks a little off balance.
yeah,
Maybe kind of scampering a little bit, but
you do.
it's always under control and it always goes in. I would say from an aesthetic point of view, Catherine's a little smoother, and some of her like controlled lunging and little adjustment steps to create her consistent contact point is very, very impressive off of very, very hard shots. So she's always been that type of player that it's just smooth as silk, and there's not a whole lot of missing going on from CP or TM. Maybe I need to get a 2-letter acronym for myself because they're really killing it from the back of the court. And like you said, I mean, we're talking 90+% get to the kitchen, which is, that's just such a big deal.
It's crazy. And I'm working on that every day, but I think a part of that might just be talent. Because I don't feel like that.
Oh man, that's good
Yeah.
stuff.
But
So how about this, James? If dropping and mid-court play were literally all there was in pickleball, what would your rating be?
you wouldn't be talking to me right now.
Is it in the fours? Is it in the fours at least?
I think it's so funny. Like I'm working on it a lot more now. Like it's crazy because it's not due to a lack of reps, but I'm working on it now. It's gonna definitely not be due to a lack of reps because I'm spending probably 2 hours a day in that transition zone, literally. But it is weird because I was doing a clinic and there was like the advanced clinic at this place called Sea Colony. Shout out to Alex Justiniani. It was an awesome clinic we did. There's an advanced clinic, 4 O's and above that we did. And I could have swore there was 3 or 4 people there that were better at getting to the kitchen than me. And they're just doing like they're resetting the ball. Like it really confuses me. Some people just have that talent, I guess. And I have to work for it every day. But to answer your question, I think if resetting and dropping was all there was, because I can dink at a high level, but resetting and dropping, I'm probably like a 4-5, 5-0. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's reasonable. That's reasonable with
I
it.
know.
With it.
It's not good.
Okay, so I had one last note here on my little spiral notebook here. And so let's chat a little bit about the future of right side play moving forward and kind of what the prototypical right side player will look like. Most right side players two plus years ago looked a little bit more like me. And lately we've seen you play a little bit. We've seen DJ Young in the mix a little bit on the right, even Andre a time or two, even though he's, not that's not his style to be over there. Do you think that we could get to a point where instead of just having a rock over there, we have more of a hybrid who can be consistent with the dinking, but is speeding up, using their length, and using some heavy-handed counterattack ability with their size some as well?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think it gives the left side player, I think Tyson felt a lot more comfortable dinking aggressively, taking a lot of control of the point and using those linear dinks because he knew that if the ball did pop up a little and I got attacked, that would be okay. So it's not Jay over there, right? And I think it's different because if you're playing the left and you've got a guy who you think is vulnerable to a lot of attacks, you don't want to be, you feel a little bit like tight about a lot of your aggression. You don't want to let loose. So I think there's an argument to be made that maybe if you've got a really good creator on the left and a really consistent dinker also on the left, if you just give them a guy on the right who's willing to take 30% of the court and just is really tough to attack on that 30% of the court, I think that lets the left side player play at their best because they're still taking a lot of court and they're still orchestrating the action. Like I'm not saying I'm the one on the right that's orchestrating the action. I think in the final I sped up maybe 4 or 5 times, but I was just a rock at the kitchen and I was really tough to attack. And I think that gave Tyson a lot of freedom to play how he wanted to play. So I think the future of the right is maybe the most important thing might just be consistency and countering ability. And maybe, being able to speed up also is very important because I think but ultimately the most important thing in my opinion is just being able to counter.
Yeah,
Um,
no, that makes a lot of sense, and especially, and it's twofold as well. When Tyson is dinking aggressively and he's not as comfortable with his right side partner, that might turn into a third nipple as opposed to right into the power air down at the feet of the opponent. So he can dink more aggressively. And when he feels like he gets a little sliver of offensive opportunity, he can go for it instead of being like, oh man, should I do this? I don't know if my partner will be ready. And when he has that freedom, I could see where that would really help mentally as well to just do whatever he wants to and not second guess a thing.
yeah, and I think I think the other thing though that also is important out of a right side player is being able to dink pretty aggressively and safely. And that's where I'm kind of figuring that out on the right. I was sort of pushing him in, but that's a place where I think Dylan Frazier really separates himself because his ability to dink aggressively, he's got the hesitation. You look like a speed up, then he goes hard inside out. Yeah.
Little shoulder. He's been throwing in the shoulder fake lately. Let's go.
Yeah. I mean, that type of manipulation with his dinks is huge. And I think that's for me, that's the next thing for me. I'm working on that a lot too. But being able to do that from the right, it makes a world of difference. So that's my takeaway, I would say.
Yeah, and I think that was something when I was playing I could have done a better job of because I could handle pace very well from the dinks. I was extremely consistent, but they were pretty dead. There wasn't I could move them around, but it was much more as Tyson would say lift dinks, not the push linear dinks. And I think that was a mistake on my part to not go for a bit more because I think I could have done that without sacrificing much consistency. And I agree, Dylan 12, 18 months ago was not doing that near as much. And now he is, and he is not missing anymore. And obviously that's a great combination to have. More aggressive, same consistency.
Yeah. All right. Well, what better way to end the podcast than on the topic of Dylan Frazier, Let's just
James, I have one more question for you. So I have 4 nicknames here for you. Tell me what is your favorite classic? We got classic James, we got Jimmy, we got Big Papa, and we have Iggy.
Okay. It depends on who's calling me it. Like a lot of
I see.
these tournaments, I've got a lot of like middle-aged men, like, oh, daddy, Big Papa. It's a little weird. It's a little weird. But sometimes I'd say other men, you could just call me James. Jimmy's fine. But no, I think James is good, Jimmy's good, Big Papa's good. Iggy's kind of like, it's kind of lame. I think, but I don't really care. I mean, I'm just here to hit dinks, So
That's right. So we got Iggy at a distant number 4. That's all the information we needed. Enjoyed it, James. Until next time, and best of luck. You got a couple coming up, I believe Kansas City and Cincinnati before Major League Pickleball. So looking forward to watching and seeing you do your thing, buddy.
Awesome. Thank you.